Chapter number 19, Refugee Blues by Winston Hugh Auden. I will first read the whole poem and then explain its summary and meaning. So the poem is said his city has 10 million souls. Some are living in mansions, some are living in holes. Yet there is no place for us, my dear. Yet there is no place for us. Once we had a country and we thought it fair. Look in the atlas and you will find it there. We cannot go there now, my dear. We cannot go there now. In the village churchyard there grows an old yew. Every spring it blossoms anew. Old passports can do that, my dear. Old passports can do that. The consul banged the table and said, "If you have got no passport, you are officially dead. But we are still alive, my dear. But we are still alive." Went to a committee, they offered me a chair. Asked me politely to return next year. But where shall we go today, my dear? But where shall we go today? Came to a public meeting. The speaker got up and said, "If we let them in, they will steal our daily bread." He was talking of you and me, my dear. He was talking of you and me. Thought I heard the thunder rumbling in the sky. It was Hitler over Europe saying they must die. We were in his mind, my dear, we were in his mind. Saw a portal in jacket fastened with pin. Saw a door opened and the cat let in. But they weren't German Jews, my dear, but they weren't German Jews. Went down the harbor and stood upon the quay. Saw the fish swimming as if they were free. Only 10 feet away, my dear, only 10 feet away. Walked through a wood. Walked through a wood, saw the birds in the trees. They had no politicians and sang at their ease. They weren't human race, my dear, they weren't human race. Dreamed I saw building with 1,000 floors, 1,000 windows and 1,000 doors. Not one of them was ours, my dear, not one of them was ours. Went down to the station to catch the express, asked for 2 tickets to happiness. But every coach was full, my dear, every coach was full. Stood on great plain in the falling snow. 10,000 soldiers marched to and fro, looking for you and me, my dear, looking for you and me. So this poem was written by Winston Hugh Auden. He was a student and later a professor of poetry at Oxford University. One of the most important poets of the century. He has published several collections of poems, noted for their irony, compassion, and wit. Although a modern poem, Refugee Blue uses ballad form of narration. So, Winston Hugh Auden was born in England. He was an English American poet. So you can clearly see in this poem that he was applauded especially for this technical and stylistic achievements which he got for his poems. This poem was written in 1939. This poem describes the condition of Jewish refugees during the period of Nazi army, with the particular emphasis on how they were discriminated and antagonized. Every one of us know about Jews and their queries. The poem is set in some foreign country where in the speaker and his companion took a refuge. This is seen from the indifference of people and also from sentence verse. poetic they have used many poetic devices in this poem. The speaker of the poem says that the current city he is in has 10 million souls. Some live in great mansions while some live in poor holes. In neither dwelling there is a place for him and his companion. He once had a country which he thought was good and just, and it was still there, but he cannot go back to it now. His and his companions' passports were expired, and they do not renew themselves like the yew which blossoms anew in every spring. When the council asked for their passports, he replied that they had expired. The council then shouted that if they had no passports, they were officially dead, but they were still alive. They can't be dead because they are still alive. They went in front of committee to get their passports renewed, but they told them to come back next year. But where they will go today? What? How will they survive for a year? Speaker wonders about his life and his companion's life. Speaker went to the public meeting, and there he heard the open protestation against letting them into country. The speaker imagined thunder rumbling. It was Hitler saying that all Jews must be put to death. The speaker was a well-dressed poodle, a door opening for a cat, saw the fish swimming freely in the harbor, saw the birds singing happily in the wood. They were all having better lives than he and his companion, couple of Jews. So the Jews were literally being killed for no reason in Nazi Germany. So the poet dreams of huge building with thousands of rooms, and yet none had its their name over it. He stood waiting for the door to open, but he saw tens of thousands of soldiers marching. Speaker ends the poem by saying that the soldiers were looking for them because they were Jews. They have done nothing wrong, but the soldiers want to find and kill them only because of their religion, only because they are Jews. So, in short, speaker is saying that there is nowhere in this world which has thousands of doors, which takes good care of pets, which is a home to free birds and fish. But there is no hut or place for Jews. Throughout the poem has 12 stanzas. The last line of each stanza contains repetition. So they use a repetition model for this poem. This is to emphasize that the content of stanza mostly on how Jews were discriminated against and denied basic rights. The rhyme scheme used is in the form of AAB. That means first line rhymes with second, and the third line is separately. Rhythm gives poem sort of sing-song characteristic, but there is no doubt that the matter must be portrayed in poem is a serious tone. This seriousness kicks in right from the first stanza, which says that there is no place for a Jew among the rich or the poor. One can understand there is no place in either of the categories, but when it is both, it is understood that the situation is very dire. In second stanza, look at the atlas, you will find it here, implies that the place which author called is for him now, but drawing on the map. It wasn't real for him anymore because there was no safety there. The dire situation of Jews is still emphasized by the situation of their passports. There is some imagery here using a church red and a U. But the point here is their passport expired and officials weren't willing to give them new passports. They cannot live there, and yet they cannot leave. They were trapped, as Consul said. They were officially dead. To be dramatic, they were dead man walking. Further, the people were against them too. People didn't like the Jews as well, afraid that their coming would mean that native people's share would go down. They would take native people's job and bread. There was fear everywhere, in their old home, in their new refuge. There is no way they can turn to or trust. Thunder is said to be rumbling in the sky. Thunder here is the order of Hitler that all Jews be killed. The reference is apt as thunder comes before lightning. Lightning here would be deadly strikes and bullets aimed at the Jews. Speaker makes discrimination more acute by portraying the treatment received, humans dressing up as dogs and opening doors for cats while they shut them on their own. So people are helping cats and dogs, domestic animals, but they are not ready to help Jews. This describes the fallen condition of Jews in the Europe. While being the most intelligent species on the planet, they fight and cage and hunt their own. In contrast, fishes swim freely, birds sing with ease. Everyone is free except the Jews. There are no politicians to bind them, no constraints. These stanzas show the dark side of humans and how far they fall. In this whole vast world, there wasn't a single door opening for them. In the last stanza, speaker says that he was on the great plain in falling snow. He is out while snowing, implying that he had no other place to go. He had no shelter, hence had to roam in the poem constantly in fear of being hunted by the soldiers deployed to kill them. Throughout the poem, the speaker speaks to another human, presumably a female companion. He says, "My dear," repeatedly, showing that him, a Jew, is caring and compassionate. This emphasis on the human and loving nature of the speakers gets further sympathy from the readers for the Jews. So the central idea of this poem Refuge Blues is that it gives pretty accurate description of the situation of Jews in Hitler's rule. It describes the efforts Jews had to do to only survive in Nazi Germany. It is to show the people that the plight of the fellow humans, how just because they were Jews they were denied basic rights. It is an indirect appeal to show compassion by emphasizing that Jews were humans too, same as the readers, same as us. So, the tone of the poem is melancholic. It is depressing and devastating. Dire plight of the Jews is presented starkly, marking readers uncomfortable, which is the poem's idea. So the conclusion of this whole poem is that W.H. Auden shakes the heart of the reader by presenting the almost brutal situation of the Jewish refugees, written in the time where war and hunt were all real. Auden tries to get sympathy and compassion from the readers towards the Jews. He also shows the depths humans can fall to in their cruelty and how indifference too was the cruelty in itself. He shows that human nature of Jews and how they wish to be free and safe like any other human. There is an exercise beneath this poem. There are 5 questions. So I will answer these 5 questions, explain these 5 questions. First question is the title Refuge Blues encapsulates the theme of the poem. So comment. So answer is blues are African American form of ballads that are originated by the end of 19th century. They primarily are melancholic and sad and can be called as the sad black slaves songs. In this blue ballad, Auden narrates the suffering of the Jews by Nazis their persecution, the Holocaust, the concentration camps, the rise of Führer and Nazism. This poem involves around Jewish couple who escaped the Nazi Germany and immigrated to United States of America. These refugees are now seeing this blue talking of their agony and pain that they have nowhere to go to. Second question: what is the poetic technique used by the poet to convey the plaintive theme of the poem? Refuge blues is a blue ballad, a form that defines his character. Ballads were popular in Ireland and Britain till 18th century, while blues were popular in African American that originated at the end of 19th century. Auden, a British migrated to USA, blends the century. He blends the two techniques to bring out this beauty of poem and that sings the sorrows and sufferings of Jewish refugees. The meter used in this poem is same as he used in his other poem Calypso, written around the same time in 1930s. While ballads were popular medieval forms of narrative verse, while blue is a African American music genre that has a rigid pattern concerning the use of repetitions and simple rhyme scheme. In the poem, the first two lines of every stanza rhyme with each other, a tercet, while the third line draws a repetitive pattern with the phrase my dear being repeated in every third line, giving a unique uniformity to the poem. It is interesting to note that first word of every stanza is a verb. Poem is a first person narrative. It is colloquial and informal language. Third question: why do the references to the birds and animals made in the poem suggest? Refuge Blue is a sad poem that narrates the constant terror that overs a Jew couple that escapes to America and their ordeal, for no one sympathizes with them. The constant fear of loss of home and death haunts them. They are unwelcome even to the newfound land of America, as they accuse them that they will steal away their bread, they will steal all the jobs in USA. The poet juxtaposes the free birds and animals to the lives of Jews. The freedom that the dog, cat, or fish enjoy is not blessed to the Jew couple. They remember the orders of Führer. Führer means Hitler, to wipe out the whole Jew race through the Holocausts or concentration camps where they were thrusted into gas chambers. It is brought out that even animals in America enjoy freedom and are respected, where Jews in Germany have no right to live as per Nazi regime. Narrator is upset that even a fish who is at the mere distance of 10 feet can swim freely, but he and his wife have to live in misery. Question 4: how does the poet juxtapose the human condition with the behavior of the political class? The poem is crafted in the environment where the whole Germany rose to ideology of Nazism, and the political thinkers were determined to terminate the whole Jew community. Thunderous rumbling of Adolf Hitler that they must die shook waves of terror across the Europe, paralyzing Jews to utmost horror. The narrator comes at this that they were in his mind. In a public meeting in USA where they took refuge, the speaker spoke anti-Jews as well. He possibly meant that if Jews were allowed to settle, they would steal their jobs and food. Jews across America and Europe were looked with bitter hatred. Everyone wanted them dead. At this time, the couple is left destitute destitute at the hands of fate. Are scared and bewildered. They have nothing to go back to nation that was once there. They suffered at the loss of identity and are threatened with death constantly. A striking contrast is drawn between the two sects that the world around them is divided into. One is comprising of people like them, the Jews, and the other is the one hunting from them, wanting to kill them. One is sufferer and one is inflicting pain on the first one. Question 5. How the essence of the poem is captured in the lines two tickets to happiness. The narrator and his partner are homeless. They have nothing to go back to. They grieve on their loss of identity and home. Desperate to be happy, they are ready to pay for it. The picture presented is piteous and lamentable. Though they cannot have the happiness in reality, they imagine that express that goes to a land of happiness and wish to purchase two tickets of it, one for narrator and one for his partner. The narrator desperately looks for some place to board the train, but every coach was full. It is dead present everywhere. They cannot afford to be happy, as Hitler has called whole Europe that they must die. Even in the end, land far stretched with whiteness of snow everywhere. It is displeasing to see Nazi army hunting the Jew couple, obviously to kill them. So, this poem was written by W.H. Auden. He has written many poems. So, in the suggested reading, it is suggested that you should read "The Taller Today We Remember." It is another poem by W.H. Auden, and one more poem called "Our Hunting Fathers." So, the, this was the poem.